All right, well, I think it is important to talk about my successes and my failures. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and today, guys, we are talking about 2024, specifically the failures of 2024. Before we get into that, please do me a favor, like this video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help the channel grow. And you can check the description box down below for links to all of my social media, including information on Patreon, including information about my Patreon, links to the Discord. All of that is there for you to explore. Now, what this specifically is this is just kind of, I set a goal to finish a bunch of series this year, and I started a whole bunch of series, and I wanted to finish a whole bunch of series, and I wanted to start wrapping stuff up and kind of transitioning from read to unread and all that sort of stuff. And I have 5 here that basically I just didn't get around to finishing for one reason or another. These things just didn't get read, and so I'm kind of counting them as a little bit of a failure on my part. But not in like a negative connotation. It's not like, oh, these books are bad. It's just like, hey, I didn't meet my reading goal. And I'll kind of talk about why. Starting off the list, we've got Covenant of Steel right here by Anthony Ryan. And essentially, this is a very character-driven fantasy. And when I am reading character-driven fantasy, I've really, really got to be in the mood for it. And so, unfortunately, like, I got through The Pariah. I really enjoyed The Pariah. And then I got about a third of the way through The Martyr. And all of a sudden, it's just my attention spans just started kind of going off to the side, as has happened many, many times here on the channel. And so this just kind of got shoved down the road to be explored at a later date. And when that date is probably looking like 2025, because unfortunately, right now, I'm just wanting gripping, thrilling reads right now, not necessarily like deep character-driven stories like The Martyr. Or Covenant of Steel. Then we've got right here, this is a straight up failure on my part. This is a 4-book series that I have been halfway through since I think the middle of 2023 or 2022. I love David Gemmell. This is Regante. I put Regante as like a priority series, I think, this year. And I didn't even read a single page of Regante. I did read some David Gemmell. In fact, I finished out Draenei, which is something that I wanted to do. But I didn't come back and finish out Regante, which should have been very doable for me, and yet it wasn't done. And for that, I have no excuses other than I can say, I'll try and do better in the future. I'm always trying to do better, but I seem to have come shy of the mark here when it comes to Regante. For one reason or another, it always just kind of got shoved to the side for more exciting reads or stuff that was catching my interest in the moment. And then I just never... I don't know. I never got around to finishing it and picking it up. So, again, this is just going to have to be a can that is kicked down the road. Then we've got here. This one perplexes me. This is Eli Mon Press by Rachel Aaron. And I loved the first bind-up of the first 3 books. And then books 4 and 5 are these kind of beefy standalones. And I started reading, I believe, book 4. I don't know if this is book 5 or book 4. Doesn't really matter. It's still Eli Mon Press. And I started reading it, and all of a sudden I wasn't quite gripped. These are like a lighter, funner style of read, but for some reason it just wasn't holding the wizard's attention. And so like I put it down 1 month with the intention to pick it back up the next month, and then the next month, and then the next month, and then it was off the TBR, or it was off my immediate reading plans. It's still on the TBR. I still own the book. But yeah, I never came back to finish this series. And that is definitely something that I want to do next year, because I feel like I let myself down a little bit by not finishing this series. Specifically, like, one of my big failures this year is the fact that I didn't finish 10 series. Like, there's no way it's going to happen. Like, I could kind of, like, fudge the numbers and be like, I finished 10 series, but realistically, I finished 9. And I feel like 10 should have been accomplishable, but it didn't work out that way for the old wizard. So these things, they do happen. And it makes me sad. It just makes me sad. Next up, we've got Last War by Mike Shackle. This is specifically Fool's Hope. And I have been meaning to read this since almost November of 2023. And it just kept getting kicked down the road. I read, I think, the prologue at some point. I did get that far. And I was just like, oh, that's a really interesting prologue. And then crickets. Nothing. I have no excuses other than to just say, hey, you should probably pick up this series, because if you like grimdark, this is where it's at. This is grimdark goodness. It's so incredibly good and well worth a read. At least We Are the Dead. I will 100% stand by a We Are the Dead recommendation. And then finally, we've got Dune. Specifically, the first Dune trilogy is what I'm counting here. I purchased Children of Dune with the intention of finally coming back to Dune and intentionally finishing it because I loved Dune. And I liked Dune Messiah, and I had heard such amazing things about Children of Dune. But I was having trouble connecting with the prose. I was having trouble sinking into the story. I was looking forward to the next read while I was reading this read, and that is something you never want to do when you are in the midst of trying to finish a series, because I only ever really intended to read to book 3, because I heard book 4 and book 5 just get odd and weird, and sometimes, like, odd and weird works for me, but not always. Odd and weird are not always the way for the wizard. And so I just kind of, I think I read like 20% of it, and then put it down, and I never came back to it. And I consider these, I consider myself to have let myself down with these 5 series, just because this should have been doable. These were accomplishable goals, and if I was less distractible, like, maybe these would have gotten done. But that is really neither here nor there. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here to tell you that I'm going to do better, or at least I'm going to attempt to do better or want to do better with my reading goals and wrapping up series so that I can then talk about these books to you and hopefully get you excited for these books. Hopefully within the next year. I do have a priority list coming out for 2025. If it's not out already, you never know when I'm going to schedule these things. But that is something to look forward to because it is coming. And some of these may make an appearance, but I don't think so. I think these are just things that I'm just like, hey, do better. I think Eli Mon Press makes an appearance. I do know I picked series that I was in the middle of or that I had started and that I just never really got around to finishing. So there are books out there on that list that may have appeared here, but it's not a one-for-one list. Let me know in the comments down below what series you intended to finish this year and it just didn't end up happening for you. In fact, tell me why this happened to you, because I'm always curious to see about or learn about reader motivations. It's something I find really, really fascinating. That's all I've really got for you today, guys. I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourself. Till next time, peace out. Stay magical. Bye. And as always, I'm going to give a huge thank you to my patrons. Thank you for supporting my passion and my hobby. It means the world to me.